is introduce Bob Richards III, who is a senior Motorola executive who has come all the way from Schaumburg to address the group this evening and provide some perspective. So, Bob, could you come up here, please?
Thank you very much.
Ah, how are you? Come on, give it back to me. How are you?
Can you feel the love?
By the way, Wendy, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but I like you. I really do, in a friendly way. Anyway, it's my pleasure to be your faithful MC to this evening. I am Bob Purdy, and I did work with this great company MDI from 1985 to 1990. Some of the greatest years of my life. It was mainly because of you, all the people that I worked with, and the great exciting time we had being at the leading edge. We were pushing the envelope, and we weren't frightened of paper cuts. And it was a great company to work with. It's my great pleasure to introduce Barclay, who has kindly offered to say a few words.
Thanks, Bob. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you. Can you hear me? So, Glenn mentioned he had grandsons, and I have 2 grandsons, and they're 6 and 9. And every once in a while, words come out of my mouth that my daughter tells me aren't digestible. So one time I said to them, "Get your sorry ass on the bus." And she said, "Dad, that's not digestible. That means they have a sore ass." So I walked into that and went, "Shit." And I did that once, and we got a flat tire in the Caribou, and she said, "That means toilet, Dad. That's not digestible." But I want to tell you, I'm very happy to see all of you. And I've got a couple of stories to tell you. One is about Bob Purdy's dad, because Tom and I went back before MDI, and then Tom left McDonald Detwater to co-found MDI. And we ran out of money in the early days, and Tom at the same time had a heart attack in, I think, Toronto, right? And so Tom's share of the money to keep the company going was $50,000, because he was one of the shareholders. This was before we were public and anything else. And Tom just got back from 3 weeks in the hospital in Toronto, pouring down rain, dark at night, drove into our little crummy office on Shell Road, sat across from me, half alive, sick as hell, and said, "I'm coming in to tell you I don't have $50,000, but I got $25,000. Would you please take real good care of it?" And I thought, geez, this man sitting across from me drove in, sick as heck, to give me this responsibility. But it was that kind of heart-centered behavior that ended up being all of who we are, who we were. And my other story is about money. And you know, we all did great work. We produced things that nobody else would. But sometimes I look at the bottom line and go, shit, there's nothing there. So I go talk to people, and they look at me like I had some disorder. Like, what's wrong with you? Look what we're doing. And I go, well, yeah, at some point we need to make some money, which we did, but it was my job to sort of carry the torch on that. And one time we had a customer in Los Angeles who was a customer but was also a bit of a scoundrel, who won't be named, and he owed us $700,000. And he wasn't paying, and we put in the system, and Bob Fleming, who I'm sure many of you remember, worked out of the California office, and Bob had a great way of getting things done and quite a twisted sense of humor. So I phoned Bob and I said, "Bob, I look at the receivables, and you gotta get this money from this guy." And he said, "Well, Barclay, I've tried and tried and tried." I said, "I don't want to hear that, Bob. I need the money. Don't call me back until you have the money." So I didn't hear from Bob for a couple of weeks. He called me back, he says, "I got the money." I said, "How the hell did you get the money?" He says, "Well, I pulled up in the parking lot in front of this guy's office, and I emptied my pockets out of everything I had. And I pulled the liners of my pockets out, my suit. Then I took my briefcase, and I dumped everything I had in my briefcase in my trunk. So my briefcase is empty. I walked in his office, I sat down in the waiting room, and at some point his receptionist says, "You can go in." He goes in and says, "Hi Bob, how you doing?" He says, "Not very well." He says, "I have no money. See, my briefcase is empty. And I have no money because you won't pay Barclay, and Barclay won't bloody pay me." And he got the check.
Well, thanks, Barclay.
Stand up.
Man, it's great to see so many old friends here tonight. God, haven't we aged gracefully, huh? Well, maybe not all of us, but most of us. I used to give the new employee orientation talk as we kept hiring platoons of people at a time and tell them that this was an opportunity like nothing they would ever have in their life. And they all look at me like, yeah. But it turned out to be true, didn't it? And I think that one of the, a couple of things, Barclay was a great people person. Like imagine today starting a company and giving every employee some stock. Everybody felt that they owned a piece of the company. I remember going on a sales trip to Dallas with Mark Jones, and of course I'm the sales manager, so I get to drop him at the check-in counter as I go turn in the car, and he gets to hump the 14 aluminum boxes to check in, right? And I get there, and he's arguing with the person at the desk about that tickets cost too much. Like what salesman would care how much the ticket costs, you know? But I mean, we thought that we owned the company. And so I think that that really, the spirit of that teamwork has put us through that first 10 years. Interesting for me is, even then I was a relatively old kid. Can you believe it? 2 weeks ago I turned 70. Like, how did that happen? But traveling with the young folks. Remember John Mitchell and I and Larry Schellenberg in Las Vegas? And like Paul Guzik wanted to have Jolt Cola for breakfast. Like, what do you do with that? I was flying from Chicago to New York once with Mary Connolly, and I said, Mary, Mel Torme just got into first class. Who the hell is Mel Torme? So we spread the gospel of wireless data, and a lot of it was the illusion of progress with styrofoam models. You can ask Brent about his styrofoam story. And but really, when I look back, I don't think too much about the business deals, but the people and the teamwork and our experiences on the road. So we started out as a quaint cottage industry in Richmond and went throughout North America and then the world. So when I was younger, I used to jog, and that's what wrecked my hips, but so I jogged in Central Park in New York, Hyde Park in London, Washington, D.C. with Jim Dolby, Las Vegas with John Mitchell. And, we got to see the world. Spent so much time in London and New York over 15 years that I saw all of the great plays in the West End and on Broadway. So we got to see a lot of the world. One of my favorite things was to organize the MDI sailing cruise, and we had some great times there. And I think we had lots of people sign up for it. One year we had 15 boats. It was amazing. That's where Al met Sue, I think. And so we had the vision, okay. Remember the Envoy, remember the Marco, the wireless Newton? It only took, 20 years for us to get our iPads? But we had the right idea. Anyway, it's fabulous to see you guys here tonight, my old pals. And I'm really glad that Ken and his colleagues put this together. It's just terrific. Thank you so much.